As someone who's been a YoloBox user since the first version, it has been honestly genuinely exciting to see these things develop over the years. And I kind of just wanted to do an update on the updates that the YoloBox Extreme and the YoloBox Ultra have gotten. This is not like just the most recent update, and this is not every feature in those updates, but it's kind of, there are just a few things that have been added over the past few updates that connect to my workflow and my interests like really specifically, and I just wanted to share those. There's tons of features, and the way these things have grown and evolved, there's stuff that like there's a whole slew of stuff that doesn't even fit into my workflow, but it fits into other people's workflows, so I might not ever use those, but they're game changers for other people. And so I just wanted to share a couple things, some of which are pretty simple and others are a little more complex, that are game changers for me when it comes to using the YoloBox. And this is the YoloBox Extreme, which I like because it can record in 4K. This video is not sponsored or anything. I really like this, and I don't know, there are a few things that have been updated on it that make it even more usable in my workflow, because it's great. Like right now, I'm recording everything you're seeing and hearing in this video into the YoloBox Extreme, because that's going to make my editing life a lot easier, since I can just switch cameras on here and I don't have to worry about syncing up stuff afterwards or editing or anything like that. So simple production workflows, hooray. And you can kind of see the YoloBox Extreme right here, but I have this cable, this HDMI, running from the HDMI out into one of the inputs, which means I can tap this button and now you can actually just see the YoloBox. It's a good way to do screen recording, which is pretty cool. And that way I can show you some of the awesome features. And I do want to start by focusing on some of the camera settings features, because this is something that I think is very exciting, potentially a glimpse at what could come, and just something that I've been asking for a long time. So if we go here and we go on the left side of the screen at the bottom, these are all of my inputs, all these little squares. This is actually set up for a live stream I did the other day, so there's some inputs that aren't being used right now. But if you notice, like HDMI 4, which is my main shot, that's this shot right here, at the bottom of that, there's kind of these three little circles. Same thing with HDMI 5, which is this shot over here. And what that means is that there is a LUT applied. So something I've been wanting on the YoloBox for a long time is a way to adjust camera color. From what I understand, in terms of like, I don't know, developing and things, that can be a little complex. So they've been adding in versions of it, one of which being LUT support. So for a while now, you've been able to add in LUTs. If I tap and hold on any of those inputs, you'll see this menu pops up, and one option is to add a LUT, which basically means, you can see here I have a few different LUTs. I have just like my custom preset one. Click on that, you can adjust the intensity. So that means now I can use both of my Sony cameras. This is the FX3, this is the A7S III, and I don't have to add any color correction or anything in Final Cut Pro afterwards. It also means if you have a specific workflow where you can dial things in between different cameras, you can then match things. So if I was using like Sony and Canon, or if I want to throw in like my Obsbot Tail 2, which I use a lot in streams, that has totally different, color science than the Sony cameras do, it's a little bit easier to mix and match cameras from different brands and different sensors and all that sort of stuff, which is very, very helpful. The only downside to the LUT workflow is that it is a lot of work to figure it all out. Like, you can't really do it on the fly. You sort of need to have things preloaded. If you're working in an environment like this, right? So in this space, I'm in charge of the lighting. It rarely changes, so I can kind of preload a LUT and it's just gonna work every time. But if you're changing your environment, you're changing your location, you're changing your gear, then it's a little more difficult, because the LUT might not work on the new thing, even though it worked last time. So something I've been wanting is the ability to kind of adjust colors on the fly, which has not fully been implemented, but has a little bit. So I do have this camera here. This is the YoloCam S3, this little webcam. It's just this little guy right here, and I just have it literally sitting on my FX3, which is fine for what we're doing right here, because now you can kind of see this USB 1 input. If I tap and hold on that, I'm gonna get an option, and now there is a camera setting option right here. So if we look over to the right side, you see there's color style. I can change all these different color styles: sharpness, contrast, saturation. I can even add vignetting correction if I need it. Then I can go over, I can control the cameras, I can control the camera's autofocus from here. I can go into exposure, I can change my shutter speed, my ISO, I can turn exposure auto, manual, I can turn on flickering. I can also do white balance. This is really a big one. I cannot remember which camera to look in. This is really a big one to me because especially a lot of different cameras, just the way the sensors work and things, some cameras kind of lean a little more magenta. Other cameras like Sony's lean a little more green. And when you're mixing and matching, it can be a little bit tricky. So being able to not only adjust your white balance, but also the red and blue offset makes it a little bit easier to mix and match, you know, specific cameras. I can even go into the settings and change the resolution, the frame rate, firmware, all that stuff on this camera. Now the limiting factor of this, all those super cool features, is that those are limited to YOLO cams, the S3 and the S7 that are connected via USB. And that's kind of how the magic works, is once the camera's connected through USB, now that's why I can tap and hold, get the camera setting option and see all of these, because the YoloBox is communicating with the YOLO cams basically the same way that the software would on your computer. Because at the end of the day, this is basically just a handheld computer. If you have non-YOLO cams connected through USB, you don't get all of those options, but you can still go in and adjust the frame rate and the resolution, which is super helpful. And if you're working over HDMI, then you have kind of just the LUT option. So I don't really know if it's possible to add this depth of settings to HDMI inputs, because I think the USB might kind of be the secret sauce there, like that. We're not actually changing those settings on the YoloBox. We're using it to adjust it, but we're changing the settings on the camera itself. So I think that might be offloading some of that processing power or something, versus if we were doing it through HDMI, that then means in real time, the YoloBox would be processing all of those color, white balance, exposure changes. And I don't know how that works, but if it's possible, I would definitely love to see that come to HDMI. And the way that they've implemented it on the USB cameras is exactly what I wanted. Like all of those settings, all those options, the way that they're easy to understand, it's absolutely amazing. So that's kind of like, that's sort of an update that's been, you know, evolving over the past few firmware updates, but I think it's super exciting and definitely one that I wanted to focus on. Now, the next updates that kind of blew me away have to do with streaming, which is why I'm using this streaming, you know, example workflow that I have right here. If I tap on the comments option, I don't have any comments right now, obviously, because I'm not streaming, but I can add in footage from a stream I did last week with the YoloBox. This is where I would see all the comments and I could pop them up on screen if I wanted to, and I can go in and change the way the comments look and, you know, all those settings. That's nothing new, although it's, you know, one of the super nice features of the YoloBox. But up here at the top where it says all or favorite, that is kind of a new-ish thing. And basically, actually, let me show you. If I go back here and I show all of these different connections and destinations, if I were streaming to multiple places at once, all of those comments would pop up at the same time. So say I was streaming to 2 different platforms at the same time. If I tap on the All tab, I would see everything mixed together, and then each different platform that I'm streaming on would then have its own tab here. And then favorite just means that if there's a comment that I'm interested in, I can tap the little star icon next to it, favorite it, and that way I can come back to it. You know, I don't typically have this problem, but if you're someone who has a stream where the chat is just going crazy and you don't want to miss things, you can kind of tap on those little favorite icons and then make sure you don't miss the comments that you want to address, which is super cool. So the ability to add comments has been kind of one of the core features of the YoloBox since the beginning, but they've refined it a lot, and they've added 2 cool things. So this is actually what I really want to focus on. There's now a More tab. If I tap on that, there's a viewer map and viewer credits. The viewer map, I'm going to open that, and it's going to give me a warning that says heavy CPU usage, turn this off when not actively using it because it takes a lot of work. I've done long streams using the map feature, and I never saw my CPU usage really go above 50% on the YoloBox. So it probably depends on your network, how long you're using it, how crowded it is, but the map feature is pretty sweet. I think Aaron Parecki had a big hand in bringing this to the YoloBox or motivating them to add it. So what you end up with then is a world map, and right now there's nothing on it, but I can show again an example from a previous stream. And up at the top you see it says say hello from blank to get on the map. What that means is in your chat, if someone says hello from and then their location, it will put their profile picture on the world map where they're from, which is really, really cool. And I love the way that this is done because it's not just like doxing anybody. You know, it's not just finding someone's IP address and putting them where their home location is. It's up to you. You could say hello from the United States, and it'd kind of throw you in the middle of the US. You'd be in Nebraska somewhere. You could say hello from California, but then you could also say hello from, this really specific town in this specific state, and it would show up there. And same goes for all over the world. So it allows your viewers to be as specific or vague as they want to be, and they can still be added on the map. And it's really fun to be able to see this map get filled in. And when you're streaming and stuff, it's easy to kind of see the numbers, but forget that the numbers represent people. And so I love being able to see the icons all over the world. And like literally if you're streaming and you have like 4 or 5 people, which you're like, oh man, my stream, not a ton of people are watching it. But then you see that there's 4 or 5 people spread potentially over the entire world. That's kind of crazy to be able to do something that can connect with that many people in that way. So this is just an awesome feature. It is really, really fun. And it also, I have found, helps kind of smooth things along in the stream, because you always want to acknowledge people, like when people say, hey, great stream, watching from Switzerland or whatever, you don't want to ignore that. It's really cool that someone's there. They're taking their time. They're even taking extra time and effort to, share something in the chat. But sometimes, you can almost get sidetracked, and then a whole minutes of streams go by where you're just kind of saying hello to everyone. And so this is really cool because it allows people to share their location if they want. It doesn't really have to take any time from the stream, and then it's even more fun because you get to pop up the map and see where everyone's coming from. Now, under that, there's another option called viewer credits. Now, again, I don't have any example comments on this because this is recording and not streaming right now. But what that will do is it will kind of darken your screen and then start rolling credits of people who have participated in your live chat in order of how many times they have left a comment in the chat throughout the stream. So it's kind of like a leaderboard, but it's also almost like when you see like membership things, like Patreon and YouTube channel membership, like credits and supporter names. It's almost kind of a thing like that you can do at the end of a stream and stuff, which is neat. If I go over here to this is my stream starting window, and I have a similar thing at the end of the stream. What's really fun is now I can, instead of just having this be blank, I can have credits rolling on that, and that's just sort of a fun way. You stream for an hour or 2 or more, everyone's talking, participating. It's kind of a cool way to recap things, and also then your stream doesn't just cut off. Like sometimes people are actually having conversations in the chat, and so you can do this. It gives, takes however long, I guess. If you have a ton of people, it's going to take longer. And then you can, it gives people a chance to sort of like wrap up, say goodbye, end their conversations, and then your stream can end. And I think it's such a fun, awesome feature that I haven't seen implemented like this anywhere else. And the fact you don't have to do anything, you just push the button and it goes, is really cool. Now we've also got some cool audio related options, which again, not all these are like in the most recent update, but they've just things that have been added over time. So if I go to my audio window, I have all my sources, which this has been there for a long time, and I've always loved that you can add individual delays to every source if you need to. But now up at the top, there's a little speaker settings icon, and if I tap on that, if I'm using the line in or the mic in 3.5mm inputs on the YoloBox, I can now add noise reduction. That's relatively simplistic, but it's the idea of adding in audio processing here, which, if you're connecting a Rodecaster or something, you don't need that because it's got amazing processing and you just want the signal from the Rodecaster untouched. But like, right now I'm using a mic that's unprocessed. Luckily, I'm in a pretty quiet environment, but being able to add noise reduction would be very, very helpful, not just on this, but even on other sources in the future would be cool. Things like the HDMI sources. So if you're running a mic from a camera or just a camera's audio, that could be cool. Expanding on that, maybe if that's possible, would be neat. Seeing things like compression and some basic EQ would be super cool. This is kind of my like dream wish list over here. But I like what we have already right here. I was really excited to see these options, and I'm excited to see where the audio adjustments go in the future. There's also a really fun thing that's been around for a while, but again, things just kind of get polished, and that is if we go into overlays, adding in the countdown timer. So if I go to my stream intro, this is a video I made that has the timer baked in. Like I made this in Final Cut, exported the video, the YoloBox is playing a video. But it's sort of a bummer because if I want this to have a different amount of time on it, or especially at the end of a stream, I don't want it to say the stream starts. If I'm doing a closing thing, I want to say like, thanks for being here, and just have like a minute-long countdown timer or something. What I can do now, or you've been able to do this for a while, but here's an image, for example. I can go into my overlays, and then I can add in, there is a timer option. I'm adding this let's pop over here. Now, when you have these overlays, you can tap and edit them just like you can, the other cameras, and you have all these different settings. You can also then, if you want to tap this exact position icon, that's what then lets you just tap and drag this around wherever you want it to be. And what that means is you can then find something like this, which is just an image, and you can pop up a countdown right there. You can change the colors or adjust it, to make it more visible or whatever it might be. But that just gives you a ton more flexibility. Even in the record section, being able to do ISO recording, and now you can generate XML timeline files, which is super cool. But we can even go into, some of the settings and get really into like a lot of network stuff that I don't understand at all, because I basically just stream to YouTube, which is pretty simple. Except this is the last update, which is actually not specific to the YoloBox box itself, but more for desktop browsers. One issue that I was running into as somebody who has a ridiculously long YouTube password that has like all, crazy characters and hieroglyphics and stuff, and it's super long, complex, and it changes often. It's actually been kind of frustrating to keep binding my account to the YoloBox. Every time I need to type in the password, it's like hard for me to do that correctly. It takes a lot of time. You make one little typo, like, is that a lowercase L or a capital I? I don't know. And so you end up needing to re-type in the password a bunch, which if you're just about to start streaming and you're like, oh God, my account looked like it was connected and now it's not. There's also this part where even when things are added correctly in the YoloBox, Google and YouTube, they sometimes, get a little funky with third-party things that are connected to your account. So sometimes you need to then delete those and re-add them. And I found that when I wanted to stream with the YoloBox, everything would be up and running, and then it would be something like that, something on YouTube's end that would be making me, re-enter passwords and unbind things and do this, and then they decide to, we have sent a confirmation to this random dead iPad from 8 years ago that's in a drawer somewhere, so you need to open that to verify, because we can't use your phone that you have. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit off topic. That has been a pain point of why I haven't used the YoloBox to stream as much as I'd like to. And for me, a long time, it's been kind of just a recording device because it's great for recording. But now there is a YOLO dashboard. So you can create your account there. You can add all of your platforms right there. And then when you log into your YOLO account on the YoloBox, any of the sources that you've added on your dashboard are just added right there. So that not only makes it easier to add those sources through the dashboard, but because it's on the computer and there's password managers and stuff like that, it's so much easier to just verify things and log in and add stuff. It's super quick. If Google gets weird and wants you to refresh a connection and delete something and re-add it, it's no problem at all. And it's made my life so much easier to have that dashboard. And then that's a thing that has made it easier and more fun to stream to YouTube with the YoloBox more often. So when I got the original YoloBox, I don't know, 6 years ago at this point, something like that, it was a cool device, but in a lot of ways beyond the core functionality, it kind of seemed almost like a proof of concept. It was sort of like, okay, I see this, it could be really cool, but there's a lot of limitations. In the years since, and especially with like the YoloBox Ultra when that was released, and then the YoloBox Extreme, which has been my favorite because it has 4K capabilities, that kind of was then fully realized. Like, these are legitimate tools, and you see them in workflows. You see them not just in home streaming workflows, but events and professional, setups and things like that. I've seen them in schools and churches and corporate things. Like, they have become trusted, popular devices everywhere. And that's been fun to watch, just, as someone who, again, used the original one. But now, with so many of the things that are being added and so many of the features, it's not just that it's like caught up and equaled some of the other stuff, but it's like they've now surpassed it in a lot of ways. And there are things that you can now only do with a device like this. And I just think that's really fun. And from the user side of things, I feel more confident and capable in using these tools to do exactly what I need, and so much more that I can't even begin digging into, that it just, again, adds a ton of fun and a ton of flexibility to my workflow. And, these are just a couple features that have been added recently, but I've just been really excited about them, so I want to share them with you.